people next in line, lower classes, social slime, they don't matter, genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care, Caesar shit, force of air, fuck them back, it's only for they bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids, no one makes countries laugh to your face, fight, and die, cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line, lower classes, social slide, they don't matter, genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care, see their shit, force a bear, fuck them back, that's only fair, they bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape, they burn the kids, no one leaves countries, lie to your face, fight, and die, cause God forgives, yeah. Coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. This is Game On. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is July the 5th, 2015. And today, I'm really happy about today. Last week we had Tom DeWeese on, which was a good show. And this week we have Shellie Correia, who's going to come on and talk to us about the wind industry and wind turbines and wind farms and her experiences with it. She runs a blog called Mothers Against Wind Turbines. And so I'm going to bring her in here pretty quick, and we're going to start the show because Shellie is different than a lot of people. She's not so much a follower. She's done her homework, and she's understands the fraud that we're involved in here now. And so we're going to go through this, and maybe a little later, if Kathy Hamilton is available, we may bring her in. I'd like her and Kathy to meet each other and hook up, because I think they would be a powerful force, the two of them put together. So we'll do this right now. Shellie, are you here?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay, I'm really pleased to have you on the show today. So you... Just quickly, how long ago did you actually become involved in fighting wind turbines?
It was in the summer of 2012 when I realized that there was a project that was coming to our community, and word was that it was going to be one of the biggest projects ever, with the biggest turbines ever in Canada, or, well, North America, as a matter of fact. And people were getting very upset about it, so I wanted to find out why. So I started going to meetings and doing research on my own, and having a son that has sensory processing issues, it was important to me to make sure that this was going to be something that wouldn't harm him. He does have a problem with noises, even the smallest noise, if it's repetitive and he can't control it, it can really set him off. So I didn't want anything that was going to disturb him, make it impossible for him to concentrate on schoolwork or just even things around the house. So I decided to find out about it. And the more I delved into this and checked out the various places where they had it, such as Australia, England, Scotland, Germany, I found out that everywhere that these wind turbines went, the people were having the same issues. Issues with tinnitus, headaches, dizziness of various kinds, not being able to sleep at night because of the noise, and I was very disturbed, so I decided I needed to talk to Joey's specialist about it and see what Dr. Calvert thought. And so I went and spoke to Joey's specialist and dropped her off information about the wind turbines and decided to let her, find out for herself what was going on. So after a few days, she called me in for another appointment. So I went and spoke to her, and she said that she would write a letter that I could give to the council in my community and talk to them about how this would affect Joey and see if I could get them on board so that they could help me stop this project or at least the turbines from coming around our home. Well, that was sort of the beginning of a nightmare that just never ended. The council claimed that they had no jurisdiction because the Green Energy Act had taken away all of their right to say what was going to come into our community. When I said, but this is a health issue, they said, well, the only avenue they have left open for a health issue is the Environmental Review Tribunal. So at that point, I had to start gathering all the information that I could. I had the doctor's letter. I had letters from his school saying that they make special accommodations for my son because of noise. I had everything that you could possibly imagine for information. I had a lady that did a health submission on behalf of Joey and put that into the Canadian government as well as the Ontario government. I spoke directly to Kathleen Wynne. I spoke directly to Bob Shellie. I spoke to every politician that I could possibly get contact with. I got a lot of support from the Conservative Party, but unfortunately the Conservative Party has no power right now, so they couldn't do anything.
Well, they couldn't and wouldn't.
Yes, but they don't have to
you've been through that now with the political angle on it.
Exactly.
Is when you follow it back, they are all up to their necks in it. And
well, the problem is
one of the problems I've seen from the get-go, and I've been at this since 2006, as far as wind is concerned, is that people are looking to these politicians to help them out, not realizing that every party is involved in it.
They're all part of the problem.
I ran in the 2007 provincial election, and John Tory, who's the mayor of Toronto now, who's another player in this, but their platform, the Tory platform, was that if they were elected, that they would put more wind in than the Liberals. So idea, I still have the documents. So these people thinking that the Conservatives, if they could get the Liberals out and get the Conservatives in, that this whole wind issue would be, corrected. And that's not going to happen. But what a couple of things I'm really interested in. You did your due diligence. You did your homework. You have a son who has a problem with sound and whatnot, and it's a legitimate claim. You've had the letters from your doctor or a doctor. You've taken to the council. The council says, "Well, that's tough luck. We can't do anything about it." And the funny part of it is, before the Green Energy Act and Green Employment Act or whatever they call it came in, the councils were dancing, and I explained to the people that were fighting wind way back then that once we've cornered the councils, okay, you were going to find that the province is going to step in and take away any say of the municipal level, and that's exactly what they did. So now then the council use that as an excuse that they can't do anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I've even gone to the federal government. I've approached the Conservatives at the federal level and asked for help based on health, because health is a federal issue, and they've just sent me back to the provinces, who basically throws us to the wolves. So it's not like I haven't tried to get help from the Conservatives. I even reached out to Andrea Horvath in the NDP, and they wouldn't even accept my phone calls once they found out what I wanted to talk about.
Exactly. Once they know, see, if they're pretty sure you don't have a clue, they'll let you run around in circles forever. But once they know that you know,
what's
then they
going
cut
on.
you loose.
That's right.
They have no want to speak to you any longer.
They will not accept my phone calls. They will not respond to my emails. Even if I send a registered letter, they've lost it.
Right.
It's crazy. And I've tried to deal with the wind companies, with the government, with various organizations that are supposedly trying to help, and they all just kind of look at me with this deer in the headlights look.
Well,
And
that you
don't
get
hear
used to
from them
see.
again.
You get used to that look.
Yeah.
But excuse me. Now, these wind turbines, you mentioned this to me when we first talked about this. The wind turbines, and you're down. How close to Windsor are you?
I'm quite a ways away from Windsor.
Okay, where exactly are you then?
I am in the Niagara region in West Lincoln,
Okay.
and in a community called Wellandport, which is basically ground zero for this huge wind turbine project.
Okay. Now, how many wind turbines are they proposing putting in there?
77 in the entire community, which would spread out to Wainfleet, Haldimand, West Lincoln, basically most of the way from Lake Erie to Lake Ontario. So
Wow.
it's a huge project.
Okay, and the size of these wind turbines, I guess, like you explained that to me before, these are the largest turbines ever erected. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And they
608
stand,
feet.
how much?
608 feet high. If
That's
you can
nuts.
imagine a 60-story apartment building in a rural area, and then times 77.
Yeah. And I don't know how much time you've actually spent around a running wind farm or not.
Oh,
How
I've
many
been to
folks
several
you've
of them.
talked
I've
to?
gone to communities to try and talk to people that already had wind turbines, and it's heartbreaking. Just to
Isn't it
see,
heartbreaking? It's
oh my
disgusting is
God,
what it is.
it destroys communities.
They destroy communities in several ways. One
Yes,
is that
they
they
do.
split the community,
Exactly.
the for and the against group, and then they destroy the families who are stuck living in these wind farms. This idea that wind turbines are quiet is just a load of bunk. And
Exactly.
this, vote for us. We're your government. We care. Apparently not.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
Not even about children they're harming.
Well, no. When we had we had I forget what it was, 7 week. I think it was really long. OMB hearing up here in Kincardine over the 110 turbine windbridge or Enbridge wind farm, and we brought in a guy from Truro, Nova Scotia, who had been run out. Him and his family had been run out of his house. And trust me, those weren't 600 foot high wind turbines. But they'd been run out, and he had a couple of younger children, and the negative effects on his children were atrocious. He had no choice. He built that house. That's where he planned on living. And he went through the same thing to the doctors. The doctor said, you got to get your kids out of there, right? Went to the government, called the health agencies of the government, right? And it was like, it's all in your head.
Yeah.
And they've been doing that same nonsensical statements, all in your head. Oh, you're having these negative effects because you don't like the look of them, or you feel that you would rather not have them in your community. Any stupid ass excuse, none of which hold any water.
Exactly.
And to straight in your face deny you the safety for your family is really disgusting.
They don't care about your health and well-being whatsoever. They just care about ramming through their agenda. And
yeah, and so I don't even know if I want to go here. The community in general, are they getting it?
not a lot of them.
No.
One of the problems is there are some wind groups that are telling people how to fight this.
Yep.
And it's very disturbing. What they're doing is they're telling people, you can say this and you can say that, but you can't say this, and they are stopping people from making progress.
Yeah,
if
and I'm
there's a
surprised.
large wind group that wants you to go under their umbrella, don't do it. stay independent to the point where you can make your own decisions, where you can fight this in the way that you see best, so you can look at the bigger picture. Because micromanaging this wind situation is not working.
Well,
we know
no.
it's not working.
No, you've come to that conclusion. I mean, when these wind farms are proposed for rural areas and that, people, they start looking, and then you have this umbrella group, like you call it, and people say, oh, there's who will help us, right? And you're drawn into that, and unfortunately, once a person is drawn into that, they tend not to do that much of their own research. They're looking for that umbrella group to come to save the day, kind of thing. And certain individuals, such as yourself, you go and do your independent investigation into that, and that makes you dangerous for the controlling factors, because you bring information to the umbrella group that the gatekeepers do not want their sheep looking at.
That's correct.
I mean, I've gone through it. I know lots of people have gone through it. And once you start to question, then there's the door kind of thing, and they will do everything to demean you or ban you from their sites or whatever, even though you have proper information.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, this has been going on for so long now. I mean, I got involved in 2006, and it was going on before that. I think the first turbines in Ontario were put up in 2002, actually right up here at the nuclear plant, up the road from me. They put a few wind turbines up. And so it's been going on a long time. This is 2015.
And it's been going on all over the world.
Yeah, and they're still using the same rhetoric to demean people. I mean, if you have a child who has a medical problem which is going to be negatively affected by this, there's no question he's going to be negatively affected by it, and you're the mother, and you say, oh my, I got to go get some help, and then everywhere you go, they just blow you off. Now that's got to be heart-wrenching for a mother to go through. And I know we talked about the depths that you went to get some help. That's got to be heart-wrenching for a family with a child who is, if they put this up near your house, you're going to have problems.
Well, he also has been diagnosed since he was 3.5 years old with ADHD and anxiety. And for him to have that on top of the sensory issues is going to be too much. And 2 years before Joey was born, I lost a 16-and-a-half-year-old daughter to cancer. And that was devastating. And then after Joey was born, of course, I was diligent about looking after his issues, whatever they were. And so we've done the best we can to take care of Joey and make sure that he had a nice, rural, quiet environment. He lives in a house that there's no chaos or anything in the home. He has a really a good life out here. And for them to decide they can come in and destroy not only our home, our entire community, a lot of these kids are going to be surrounded at their school and at home. So they will 24/7 be surrounded by an electrical generation plant.
Yeah, and
spinning and making noise and causing flicker and infrasound, something that nobody should be doing.
And not creating any real usable electricity. That's the real roots, right?
No, well, it's just being done for money. All of the people that are benefiting are liberals and their friends.
Yeah, it's all about the money, and that's all it's about, because years ago I saw the UN documents. It stated specifically the purpose of wind turbines is the creation of carbon credits and money.
Yes.
And it had nothing to do with saving the planet. It had nothing to do with clean energy. It is not an energy system.
It doesn't clean anything.
It doesn't. No, it's completely useless.
Yeah.
The thing is that they said, well, no, this is they spun that out for years. It's free energy, free green energy, right? Because you don't have to put fuel into it.
Too. It's accessing it and turning it into power that costs money.
Right. But the fact is that you cannot manufacture steel from the energy you're getting from renewable energy. You can't do it. So you can't build the steel in. You can't manufacture the steel that's in the wind turbines from energy created by renewable energy.
Never. You can't
do it.
count on that energy for anything. It's intermittent. It's novelty energy.
Right, and like I say, there's a huge difference between energy. Energy's all around us. There's a big difference between energy and power.
Exactly.
Right, and they don't. But the question again: how far? What is the distance they're planning on putting these from homes?
Well, the minimum distance they're allowed to have them is 550 meters from the center of the wind turbine to the center of your home. And the problem with this is from when the wind turbines were small. This is a distance, even if it was a tiny turbine, this is the distance it must be. Well, I have an email from a minister that said, well, I think it was Jim Bradley that said, well, as the size of the wind turbines increases, the distance between the home and the wind turbine will increase also. Well, they decided maybe they wouldn't have to do that. So what they've done, they've tweaked their numbers to say, well, at a certain time and the certain wind is blowing a certain way, it won't be over 40 decibels.
Yeah,
but
that's the old crock.
If the wind picks up, it can go up to, well, basically the sky's the limit, and they'll say, well, that's a temporary situation. You could live with that for a few days.
Yeah. But the original setbacks, and this is what people have to understand. And I know Kathy knows it, and I'm sure you know it now. Is the intertwining of these NGOs and governments and that. And when CanWIA, Robert Horning, who's the president of CanWIA, was the president of Pembina Institute, and was writing papers with Suzuki, like green papers, setting this whole thing up. So once they got it set up, then he jumped from Pembina and became the president of the Canadian Wind Association. Okay, so this is all very intertwined, but the early documents, because I got a whole slew of emails from way back there on a different computer now, why the original setbacks were not supposed to be under, I think it was 1,000 meters. And that was the safety. That was the end of the safety cutoff, was 1,000 meters. But CanWIA came in and said, well, because of the smallness of the farms and the high density of the housing in the rural areas, that if we go to those standards, which were the accredited safety standard of 1,000 meters minimum, that it won't be cost effective. Okay, so that's when they come up with this sound nonsense, right? Yeah. And so they went from 1,000 meters down to 350 meters in some cases.
Yeah.
So right out of the gates, they broke the health regulations or the standards that were set. And these standards were set by industry, wind industry engineers.
Exactly.
Okay, so the political side of it, they throw out the recommendations and start slamming these in close. I just can't even imagine what a 600-foot turbine, 550 meters, is it?
Yeah.
Away from your home would be. Now, some of the people, I had some people come up from Essex to the Ripley Wind Farm back in 2008, I guess, and people had already moved out of their homes. Yeah. And we were out at the wind farm, and I remember Colette, his husband, he says, how far are those away from this house? I said, these ones are about 800 meters away from this house. And these people don't live in this house anymore. They've had to move out. And he said, well, the ones they want to put in down our way are like 400 or 450 meters. We're going to be totally screwed. Exactly, you're going to be screwed. And so I just can't even imagine what a 600-foot tower with blades on it would look like it's 550 meters from a home. I just can't. I mean, I can imagine it, but for these government people to say, "Oh well, no problem."
And a lot of these houses are houses that were built in the 1800s. They have the old windows, the single pane kind of thing, and they're left that way for historical reasons. Well, it's going to be almost impossible to live like that. That noise is going to be like it's right inside your house. It's not like the houses they're building in the city with all the special insulated windows and this and that. These houses are not made that way.
No, and it wouldn't really matter. I mean, they went through that thing that, first they told people it wouldn't bother them, and then when people were being just driven nuts by these things, then they, in some places, the wind companies were coming in to say, well, we'll pay a part of you putting in triple glazed windows or something, right? Or you should build a hedge to kind of buffer the sound. Well, wait a minute. Who was here first?
Exactly.
Okay, you've come and imposed yourself upon our community, and it does nothing that you say it does. All of the reasons you gave for
on a mortal wound.
Well, yeah, and see, this is why I want to bring Kathy in later, because she is. I mean, the precautionary principle is pretty simple.
Yeah.
That we really don't need any evidence or any scientific evidence or anything if we, contrive a problem that needs a solution, that we can ignore all of the negatives because what they're trying to do, they tell us, is save the planet, and they need wind turbines to save the planet. So they're saving the planet with no evidence of global warming or anything else, but they're using the precautionary principle to push the program forward. But then when it comes to using the precautionary principle to make sure that the folks in the community are safe, it doesn't exist.
That's it. They throw that out the window.
Right, because they're always yakking precautionary principle until you need the precautionary principle. Then all of a sudden, for some reason, it doesn't exist.
Yeah. Like Kathleen Wynne, every time you talk to her, she says she's doing it for her granddaughter. Well, what about all the people that are suffering today? She's worried about her granddaughter.
Well, that goes to the nonsense of our common future. The Brundtland report is, having it so that they have the resources, the future people have the resources to live the same lifestyle that we were accorded, which is a total load of bunk again, because I don't want to call Kathleen Wynne a nutcase, but I've talked to their office a considerable number of times. And what normally you get when you talk to the Premier's office is, well, we don't have anything to do with that. And after multiple calls to the Premier's office, it appears that the Premier doesn't have anything to do with anything.
No.
Bob Shellie can't do anything.
I was in Bob Shirelli's office, and he told me he believed this entire project would be canceled. And then when they continued to push it through, and I kept writing back to him and trying to get in touch with them, no response.
Well, see, what they've done is they've taken the responsibility. The ministries don't have any say. They set these things up so that they are basically outside the reach of any ministry, and that's been told to me by Shirelli's office. Has been told to me by the Premier's office.
That's
right.
That
they set these things up, and they pass this legislation so that these people have free reign on you. It's the same thing as the electrical distribution system now. Your electrical distributor, or the OMB, which is in charge of your hydro rates, they set the rates, but no one in the government has oversight over them. They're like a separate, untouchable board that was legislated so that it's untouchable, same as the wind industry is untouchable. So Shirelli can't phone up the company in there and say, look, I got a lady that has a child who is obvious. The doctors say this child's going to be negatively affected if you put this wind turbine up near her house. So just take that and scratch it the hell off of there. And keep these things way, way, way away. He can't do it. He doesn't have the power to do it.
and
No,
he
and
doesn't
that's the
want the
really
power.
sad part.
With power comes responsibility, and they don't want the responsibility.
No, no, they've set this up so that they have no say,
Yeah,
and so when people are writing this, oh well, yeah, like Shirley's, well, they're probably not going to go ahead with that anyways, and
yeah,
when they keep going forward, all of a sudden Shirley gets real quiet, right?
yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's what people don't understand, and it's not just wind. They're setting these things up throughout the province and the country, so that the companies are legislated, so that they actually have the final say and the power, and the rest of it is just kind of like smoke and mirrors.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have the corporations running the show now, not the so-called elected officials. And now, how do you fight that at that point?
Well, even the ERT, which is supposed to be, according to everybody, is supposed to be the place where you get protection and where you get to tell your story. Well, I told my story. I had 22 different articles and documents from the doctor's letter, from every kind of specialty, organization that's supposed to protect kids that have these issues. I had so many documents and so much proof it wasn't funny. And all the wind company had was an occupational doctor who goes around to all of their different ERTs. And he said, as far as he knew, he had never read a book that said somebody with Joey's condition would be harmed by wind turbine noise. And they won.
Well, yeah, because they're all players in it,
Yes,
right?
yes.
They're all
You know,
bought and paid
it
for.
doesn't
I
matter
mean,
if you can prove it's going to kill you. It doesn't matter. He's
well, I know a lot of people in
think
that other wind farm
oh
that died from cancer, suffered from eye strokes, which nobody ever heard of anybody having one of those things in there.
no.
And I
Anything that's
don't know
brought on by
anybody.
stress or lack of sleep, any of those things is going to be exacerbated by these wind turbines, and they know it.
Yeah, and I mean, these are really devious, nasty people.
Yes.
The one gentleman down at that wind farm who had lost his everything, he said that he was talking to some very well-dressed guys from Environment in Godrich, and he was beside himself. He'd been in the hospital twice. They're in northern Saskatchewan now. They had to get out, but he did everything in his power, same as you did, and so many other people do. And they're in that fight. But once the turbines go up, there's nowhere to fight to, and then those people are decimated, and then the wind company just goes on to the next place, and it starts all over again. The
That's
people
it
go through the
exactly.
exact same thing. But what really bothered the gentleman was, he said he was talking to a couple of really well dressed, very expensive suit guys from the Environment Ministry, who were up in Godrich, and he went and he saw them, and he says, I need help. And they basically, he said it was the coldest eyes he'd ever seen in his eyes. They were like black. And they just looked at him sternly and said, if you don't like it, move. Right?
Yes. Yes.
And that's corporate dictatorship, folks.
Yeah, that's it exactly. And that's the attitude they have. And they, not only that, they tell you to move, and they know darn well when you try to sell that house, there's houses that have been for sale for over 2 years now since they knew the project was coming, because it should have been up in 2012. There's people that have been trying to sell their houses. They can't even get an offer, and these are not dumps. These are nice houses, very nice houses.
Well, that you're one
Don't
of
want
those
to live
people,
there.
though, Shellie. You're one of those people. You know as well as I know that the wind turbines have no effect whatsoever on the value of the property. In fact, there's a very good possibility, if the wind turbine is on the farm, that the value of the farm or the property will actually increase. Surely, this is what we were getting up here, right? And the realtors were actually running around telling that to people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're involved in it as well. They're told what to do and how to market things, right?
Well, the
And
crooked realtors tell you don't tell people about wind being bad or you'll never sell your house.
Right, right, right. So now you're in a position that you want out. Now you
Yeah.
have to be deceptive
Yes.
in order to
In
get
other
out. That
words, join
really
our team
irritates
or
me.
you will take the fall.
Right, right, right. So now now it's taking honest people and they got it. They want out. They got to get out. So now
Yeah.
they're saying, well, wind's actually really good at saving the planet and everything, and you really enjoy here. They're unobtrusive and it's nice to sit out on your deck at night and watch these red lights blinking
Well,
away.
I
Very
basically did a
pleasant.
parody of that, which I had published in the local paper saying, all you green people, come on, I've got a house to sell you. And it told all about living in a green paradise and the wind turbine blowing gently in the breeze and all the lies that they've told. I put into this trying to sell my house to somebody green.
Is
And I
that on
didn't.
your blog somewhere?
No, but I can post it, no problem.
Yeah, if you
I've got
can.
all this on my computer
Uh,
from back in the day.
Yeah, and yeah, it's a criminal activity going on in neighborhoods or in
Yeah.
communities all over this country and all over the world, and people are being run off their land and they're being negatively impacted. They're losing great deals of money on their properties if they can get rid of them.
And a lot of
and
these people
uh, and yet
here
this
for
industry chugs
generations.
along.
Yeah. Yeah, they're breaking up communities where there's grandparents and parents and, aunts and uncles and everything living in the community in various houses. And they're all trying to scramble now to find out how they're going to get out and where they're going to go. And a lot of these farmers around here refuse to sell to the wind turbines. You'll see there's little patches where there are none. And now, basically, they're in the position they're going to be surrounded by them, and they're worried about their cattle and their farm
Well,
and what's
this is
going to
what
happen.
they did. This is exactly what they did in Goderich. They went to the farmers and they said, "Well, we don't really want them things." And then they started spewing these lines. Well, you're responsible because if we don't put them up today or real quick, then the lights in Ontario will go out, and you'll be responsible for that. Do you really want to be responsible for that? Starting to run these real hard lines on these guys, and the
Yeah.
people in the countryside are honest people.
Yes.
But there just happened to be a strip of land in amongst all these farms that was owned by a guy who doesn't live there.
Yes. A
And
lot of
so basically these farms that didn't sign the lease got surrounded,
yeah.
and they got run off their land. And the guy who didn't have a vested interest, like he wasn't running his farm there, he's sitting down the road collecting, the income off of 9 wind turbines, while he's watching his neighbors be absolutely driven out of business and off their land. And
That's
money ain't worth that much, folks.
No,
You know,
that's for sure.
that you would
It's
do
no
that to
different than
maybe.
having a job with the mafia. You can make lots of money, but what do you have to do to get it?
Well, it's like when I ran in the election, the conservative handler uh, came up to me and he said, you could have a really great future in politics. You know that. I've been watching you this whole election process, and I watch how you handle these people and that. And I said, but I can't be a politician. He said, you'd be like a really good politician. You'd have a great career. And I just looked at him. I said, I can never be a politician. And he goes, why? You'd be good at it. And I said, no, I wouldn't, because I cannot. It's not in my being. I don't understand how people do it. But I do not have the capacity to smile and shake someone's hand while I'm lying to them.
Yeah.
Can't do that. And he
Yeah.
actually said, he said, I see your point, but if you ever decide to change your mind, call me because you could have a really great future in politics. Now, all you got to do is look at the politicians,
Yes.
right? Jumping from side to side. They pass the legislature they're told to pass. They may scream and bitch about the other parties, but when push comes to shove, one party will come and support the other party,
Yeah.
just to move the programs forward, right?
That's it
And
exactly.
that is complete dishonesty.
Yeah.
And then we end up out of sight, out of mind. Like you take a small community like yours with 75 wind turbines, you're like collateral damage, really, right?
That's right.
you know.
That's right.
And
There's not enough of us to matter to them.
well,
If you're
that's
not
it.
Toronto or the surrounding areas, you really don't exist.
Yeah, and it's you know, even though it's um, well, I see somebody put something in here about what they're paying per kilowatt. Um, you know, 6 cents is cheap. I'm paying 13. Well, you folks, you're going to pay a whole lot more than 13 because the
Oh
whole
my!
idea is to continually drive up your cost of electricity.
They want
Okay.
it to be a luxury item.
Well, that's it. That's it. It will be a luxury item. I like how you said that.
Yeah.
You know, they're telling you you need to conserve, and they're forcing you to conserve, but you're not using. See, this idea of you conserving, one, you can't conserve electricity. You make it and use it, or you make it and don't use it, or you just don't make it. But that's it. And
Yeah.
even the engineers and the linesmen agree wholeheartedly with that assessment of this idea of conserving electricity.
Yeah.
So what they're doing is they're forcing you to use less, but then the question is, are you using more now? I mean, no, because you have to pay the bills. So you use the amount of electricity you require.
Yeah.
So now they're going to say, well, you're going to use less than you require. Okay?
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're
Exactly.
going to pay for the less you use, the more the rates go up because these distributors have to keep their profit margin for their investors.
Well, they're
So
basically
even if you
forcing.
use less and less and less, in
Yeah.
order to keep their profit margin in line,
They'll
your
just hike
cost
prices.
of the less you use continues to rise. So you cannot get out of
Exactly.
this.
No, it's just a vicious cycle. We're just hurting ourselves,
Yeah,
and
and
that's
it's
what they're
time
counting on.
well, yeah, I mean, this is, you know, this is our province, and these are our resources, and or they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they're not. The corporation owns it all, and
Well, Kathleen Wynne has her way. It's all going to be gone. She just wants the cash in her hand. She really
well,
doesn't care
it
what
wouldn't
the cost of us.
matter. It wouldn't matter really if it was, you know, I mean, it was the NDP that brought Morris Strong in, who was
They
the
just take their
God.
turn.
He's the godfather of Bob Ray, and he's on the Suzuki Foundation, and he's everywhere else.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a story. I don't have that in front of me either, but way back in this, I think it was '68 maybe, that Morris Strong was actually considering running as a liberal candidate under Trudeau. And Rockefeller, you know, says, "What's the point? You know, we
Yeah.
already control both sides. Okay,
Yeah.
we have a lot more influence from working outside than we do inside.
That's
One, the
very.
eyes aren't on you, right?
Yeah.
Now, Morris Strong is on the Privy Council.
Wow.
Now, he's never been in politics. How do you get on the Privy Council? These are advisors to the Queen. How'd
That's
that happen? Oh, he brought us
yeah.
Agenda 21. And now we have windmills. Where did they come from? Oh, I don't know. Maybe Morris Strong and Rockefeller and the UN and their investors, because Agenda 21 being a false document about saving the planet that's not really in any real trouble. What did we bring in to save the planet? Wind turbines.
Yes. Exactly.
So you know, then it went to the conservatives and who brought in the first wind turbines and then went to the liberals. And people don't read enough documents, and if they did, they would see how deeply involved the Conservative Party was in. And you know, if you go to your electricity rates going up, you can go to my blog, CanadianTruths.wordpress.com, and just punch in energy scam or whatever, Ontario Hydro scam. And I have the emails in there, not all of them, but enough of them for anybody to get their head wrapped around it. Is the Conservatives, you know, our minister at that point was being flown down to Houston, Texas in 2000, 2002, 2000, I think, down to Enron's head office to meet with Ken Lay as they set up the distribution scam here. And what was Enron highly involved in? Gas and windmills. Okay, what are we involved in here now? Gas, backing up the useless windmills.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is all set up for a lot of people to get extremely rich as you suffer. And we need to come to terms with this stuff to understand that this is not the Ontario electrical system that we're dealing with anymore.
No, it's a worldwide thing, and you can tell by the way they operate the same no matter what country they go to. It's like they have the worldwide handbook that they're using to infiltrate. And
Well, actually, there is a handbook out there somewhere. I'm not sure if they've taken it completely off the internet now or not, because when I was dealing with this years ago, there was a lady called Marie LeGros, who was in charge of wind energy at the time, and I spent lots of time talking to her, and then I got snooping around about her, doing a little research on her. And she actually wrote the manual called The Internationalization of Energy under the guidance of Morris Strong. So this is what this is all about. This is not your energy, okay?
No.
Energy has been internationalized. It's being controlled from the international side. And what else did Morris Strong say? Isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized nations collapse?
Yeah.
Isn't that our duty to help bring that about? Well, this is what you're involved in now, people. This is what you're witnessing happening right in front of your eyes.
Yeah.
And we need to come to terms with it. So people like Shellie and anybody else that you've ever heard who has been inflicted by a wind farm, who has told you stories of how their normal, everyday, happy life was turned into hell right in front of them. And when they reached out to their neighbors and their friends, no help was forthcoming, and they turned a blind eye. You got to get over this idea that your government is there to help you. If the government was there to help you, then Shellie wouldn't be on the show today.
That's right.
Right?
That's absolutely right. They've made it quite clear that they're not there to help me. They're there to help the people that are pushing the wind scam.
And they don't give a damn about your son or your family or your neighbors or their families.
No, they don't. None of them.
And they've made that perfectly clear to you.
Yes, they have. Yes, at all levels.
Yeah. And people need to wrap their brain around it, that you people are not the problem. You're trying to find the solution, and the only way we're going to get the solution is if people step forward. And it's not hard to stop anything, but when you got to have bodies.
Yes, exactly.
If you go and stand out in your field and say you're not putting this wind turbine here, they'll just haul you off.
Yeah.
If you bring 2,000 people out there into the field, it's different.
That's right.
Okay? They're not going to arrest 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And then we can get somewhere. Although there is a guy, I've read about him a couple of times, an old gentleman, I don't know if he's in Texas or Missouri or where, but they hauled him into court a few times because he kept putting holes in wind turbine blades.
Oh, really?
With his gun.
Yeah.
And the wind company was accusing him of specifically going out there to shoot at the wind turbines, right? It was caused damage, and they wanted him, jailed. And what the gentleman said was, "Don't think so." He says, "I've been a bird hunter all my life, and anybody that knows anything about birds is you're going to lead them in." So I'm leading the bird in, and I shoot, and a wind blade gets in the way. Not my problem, right?
Yeah.
I was here first, and that's really the attitude that has to be taken. We were here first.
Exactly.
And
they've imposed upon the community. They haven't been welcomed in.
No. You don't see communities go, "Oh boy, we're getting a wind farm. Oh, hot damn."
No, there's unwilling host signs everywhere.
Yeah. And Yeah, you don't hear saying, you don't hear, I don't think their phone's ringing at the wind companies. Oh, we have another community that would like us to come and put wind turbines up for them. It's like,
Kathleen Wynne had the audacity to actually say that. Well,
well,
we're not going to force these on unwilling communities. If you don't want them, there's lots of other communities that would be happy to have them. And I thought, I've never heard of a community that said that. Never. Maybe a mayor that's been bought out that's making commercials for the wind industry, maybe that. But a community, the ones that are going to be hurt, no. But the wind companies, they offer money to the townspeople for their various projects. Do you want, to build a new community center? Do you want to have this done or that done? Some money for your various sports groups? No problem. But the people in the rural communities that are being hurt are ignored. They're
that's
just
right.
completely
And it
ignored.
goes from the other angle too, because the province gets a hold of the mayors and the CAOs and that, and it's always about money.
Yes,
And if you get on board with these people that are yapping about an unwilling community, okay, then we're going to cut your funding to the municipality. We will hurt you,
exactly. Exactly.
and that goes back to the Federation of Municipalities, which stated specifically that they were going to use uh, the carrot and the stick method to control the mayors.
Yes.
The carrot is do as you're told, and we will get you a new community center or a downtown improvement or
Yeah.
whatever. But if you
Exactly.
stand in our way, we will thump you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's a lot of that going on as well.
Exactly. It's going on everywhere that the wind turbines are going up. I know that.
Yeah, and it's disgusting when you go and you talk to your council, and they know what's going on, and they know you know what's going on, right?
Yeah.
And still they try to give you stupid propaganda lines that were given them to regurgitate to you, and they
Yeah.
know it's garbage and you know it's garbage, but yet it
Yeah.
goes on.
And yet these are the people on your council that are in your communities. Some of them are your neighbors, friends, people that you've known all your life. And these people are ramming something in that they have to know is going to hurt people.
Well, it's so pathetic. um, it really is so pathetic. It's all about the biting the hand that feeds you kind of thing.
Yes.
There was a teacher out at the Ripley Wind Farm who was run out of her house. There was a pile of people got run out of their house out there. It was ridiculous. One
Yeah.
of those people that was run out of her house is now the mayor of this town, pushing watershed and parks and trails and all this kind of stuff, right? Even though she was run out of her house, uh, and
By the
uh, and we had a teacher out there who was run out of her house, and they asked me. She actually called me asking me to come and film something at the school about the Liberal Party was coming there or something. And this is when they're all blaming the liberals and the conservatives are going to save us. And this is a school teacher of many
well,
years.
this is what the conservatives were telling people.
Right.
They
And,
stop
and,
all.
and yeah. So, when I was up at the school, uh, the, I said, how can you continue this garbage, right? Like you were run out of your house, okay? And yet you here in the school are still promoting this nonsense as a way to save the environment. How can you
Wow.
do that?
What was
Well,
the?
sometimes you just have to move aside for progress. And you go, whoa, you've been
Oh,
bitching and complaining that you got run out of your house, you can't stay in your house, and,
that's
and
right.
now you're telling me this,
Oh my
you
gosh.
know? Yeah, I mean, it's bad. So, two people that got run out of that house, out of their houses. One is now the mayor, and one kept teaching school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That
Now,
attitude is not going to help us.
no, but the thing is that people have to understand that there's like I gave a talk way back in 2005 on wind, and I would change some of the stuff I said in it then, but overall it's correct. But what I did mention in there is that people have to come to the determination that there's no one out there on your side.
That's right.
Okay, there is nobody out there. I've been to Health Canada. I've been to the head of the health in Ontario, and I got wind commercials.
Yeah.
You know, I specifically asked Health Canada, I think it was, I think I went to the feds, that I needed people to come down and be prepared to be here a week at this particular wind farm to assess what's going on here and test these people for their problems and stuff. And I was absolutely astounded because it was what came from the health department was an absolute canned wind commercial.
Response. Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
and I said, man, there is nobody out there, nobody
Yeah. No,
that is going to come to our aid or your aid.
they do
So,
not want to know that there's problems.
well, they knew there was problems going in because the engineers said you can't put these things closer than a minimum 1,000 meters to somebody's house. You can't do it.
Yeah. But if they
Well,
refuse to acknowledge it, they think it'll just go away.
well, the idea is that those speak out, that they will demonize and whatnot,
Yeah.
and destroy them, and
Yeah.
take their voice away from them. My attitude is that when I run into someone like yourself, who does think independently, who's not a group thinker, when I run into someone like Kathy Hamilton down there, I mean, you folks. I don't really believe that you folks understand just how powerful you really are. It doesn't look that way when you're talking to people and that, but every time you speak to someone, it does go in their heads, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And it stays in their heads, right?
Yeah.
So they, the industry, the government depends on people like you and Kathy and myself and other people I know of just getting fed up and throwing your hands up and quitting.
Yes.
What really scares them is when you don't throw your hands up and quit.
It seems they work harder to try and make it impossible for you, but that's, in my position, that's just makes me angrier.
Well, that's the thing, and that's like it's to the point here, and I haven't had to yell at them.
Yeah.
But they know I know, and they know I'm not quitting, and that's why I keep saying we have to shine the light on them, and we have to center them out,
Yeah.
and we have to make their lives as uncomfortable as they've made our lives,
Exactly.
and we have to make it so that if they're out that they won't come out in public. They're afraid to come out in public
Yeah.
because people are going to challenge them. And it's amazing. I mean, if a politician here sees me, they run. I mean, they can't. I don't even have to say anything,
I
but
thought it
they
was
know that I know what they're up to.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
yeah, and
They
if
don't want to
more
be.
people in the community did that, that you put the fear in them. You really do put the fear into them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's what has to
Just
be done
want
to
to
them.
do anything they can to shut you up.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Kathy was telling me that I forget what the name of the town was. I take it it's up north, where they're doing these micro dams and run a river run hydro and stuff, which is really basically useless.
Yeah.
Just more money going into pockets overseas
Yeah.
and destroying the local communities one more time. But they've been using this place forever, where they would go to celebrate Canada Day. They had picnics and they'd go swimming and that. And now it's off limits because of this little micro hydro company. So they go to the council, and of course the council phones the police, and yada yada yada. But see, these are cases that most people never hear about because
That's right.
they'll watch CBC News when they're not going to report it, or CNN.
Mainstream media is totally on the side of the enemy, I call them.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And so these communities are being destroyed one at a time,
Yeah.
and uh, and it hurts me. It really drives me nuts because where I come from, you're not supposed to hurt your neighbor.
That's right. That's right.
And this idea of people being able to come into your neighborhood and destroy it. You know, I was at a wind meeting, and usually when I used to go to these wind meetings, the wind companies would try to flatter me or whatever. You know, it would be, Ron, how's it going? Glad to see you. I'm glad you could make it and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And you know, but I've had 300-pound gorillas on my back and whatnot. Like, you're not allowed to say that here and whatnot. But no real trouble. But you know, I've talked to people who are talking to the wind companies at these so-called meetings, which are not real meetings at all. It's just something that was legislated, so you can go there and voice your problem to the wind company.
Well, they tell you they're about to assault you, and you tell them, you know, have a good time.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the whole thing. But I remember telling the one guy, you know, I said, you know, your grandfather or his father, whoever came and busted open this land to create this farm here, if he caught you schmoozing with these guys, okay, he would give you a cuff up the head that would send you into the next county.
Yeah.
Because these are the people that are coming in to destroy your community, and you're hobnobbing with them.
Yeah.
In the old days, it would have been, what are you up to? Well, we're going to come and do this. Well, let us look into it. Well, we conclude this is all a fraud and it's hurt people in other areas. So the answer to your question is no. Well, yeah, but we're legislated. We can do this. Well, you can't legislate fraud into a lawful position. That you can't do.
Exactly.
And it's against the law to harm someone. And we know you're harming people. So that's against the law. So here's the idea. Pack up your stuff, hit the road, and don't come back. Because if you do come back, you're going to be sorry you did. That's how it would have been handled in the old days.
Yes. Yeah.
And we really need to get that mentality back.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's exactly what they are. They're carpetbaggers. They come in here, and in the beginning you think, well, the host farmers are getting all the benefits and everybody else is being harmed. But eventually those host farmers are going to be harmed too. It's just that it looks sweet in the beginning. Then after, when payments stop coming and the wind turbines stop turning and the subsidies end and the thing has been sold over by so many different people that nothing's the same, and you find out that you've got liens out on your farm because the wind company borrowed all kinds of money based on the idea that they had wind turbines on your property. Doesn't look so sweet anymore for anybody.
Well, what we're going to have is we're going to have a lot of broken down
communities.
Well, you're going to have an awful lot of just rusting pieces of crap sitting in farmers' fields that they're going to end up having to pay for to get them out of there.
Yeah.
And, you know, because the UN documents, some of the documents I was looking at said that once they have installed, and this is what kills me about these green people. Well, we hate coal and you can't dam rivers and stuff like this, right? And all this rhetoric. But if you go to the UN documents, it states specifically that once they have put the renewables in, which are just there again, folks, for the creation of carbon credits, which are now a stock market item, which all these people are involved in, and they're going to charge you a carbon tax. So they set themselves up to get very rich off of these carbon credits and money. Once we have done this, then we will build large hydroelectric plants, large coal plants, and large nuclear facilities. So this whole thing about this green energy going to save anything is a complete and total sham.
Unbelievable.
And yeah, it is unbelievable.
The way to run the people out of the rural areas.
Run them out, put them in the cities, get them beside the Metrolinx rail lines where you will live in your little 350 square foot condominium with some small shopping facilities below your condominium. And you can get on the train and go wherever that train goes, but we're also going to take away your right for private vehicles. So you will go where we go, and that's the only place you're going.
What a nightmare.
And Kathleen Wynne says she's doing it for her grandchildren. Well, she must really hate those grandchildren, huh?
I would think so. Everything that she's ever done in her life was for her. I can't imagine her doing anything for anybody else at this point.
Yeah, and this is not, before I say this, okay, folks, this is not a swipe on gay people, all
No,
right? I don't really give
no,
a damn what you do. Take it home, get it off the street,
no.
get it out of the schools. But I have on my blog a guy from the 70s who jumped ship from Russia, was a KGB guy apparently. And Yuri Breznikov, I think his name is. If you just put Yuri in the search engine on my blog, CanadianTruth.wordpress.com, he makes specific mention of never allowing gays to get control of any government ministry, or it's going to be trouble for you. So now we have a gay premier. The Minister of Energy is gay, right? And what's his name was really pushing the windmills and that. What the hell was his name? He used to wear blue suits and that.
Yeah.
And he was in charge of health at one time. He was gay. And so it's not been working out for us that well, folks.
Well, they seem to be tunnel vision. It seems to take up so much of their energy just promoting their agenda that everything else is going by the wayside.
Well, what happened is that they are being used. They don't understand they're being used, but they are being used, and they are going to get thrown under the bus. Make no
Yeah.
mistake about it. When you've done whatever you can do that's useful for the other side, you are gone. You're of no
Yeah.
use to them anymore. So through this flattery of special rights for gay people and stuff like this, well, I'll come out of the UN, human rights and all this kind of stuff. They flatter those people, and then they suck them into, because we're doing something to promote your gay rights. You promote our energy programs and our environmental programs because, see, we're doing good stuff for you. Now you do good stuff for us. Now they may not come out and say it like that, but that is the end result of what's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if 10% of the population is gay, they say, I don't know anything that comes out of the UN data banks. I don't trust. Um,
No.
but even if that was the number, how is 10% of the population seem to have so much influence and power over the other 90% of the population?
Exactly. And if all the gays wanted was the right to marry, well, that's not a big issue. I don't think anybody really cares if they have the right to marry or not. But they bring so many other things into it, like the sex ed curriculum, wanting to introduce children from the time they're very young to these ideas. I really can't agree with those
Well,
things. But
well, it goes back to all of their psychology, right? And even
yes,
Suzuki said that we have to get the children.
yes,
Well, I'm having a battle over my property taxes here now because I want them readjusted, because it's saying, not you nor anybody else can force me to pay for child abuse, and
yeah,
a portion of my taxes that goes to the school board, which is being used to
to
abuse the
groom.
children,
Yeah,
and it is psychological abuse.
yes, it is.
I'm not paying for it. You can't force me to pay for child abuse. I can't
No,
go there morally,
no,
right?
no. I
Well,
agree.
you just got to pay your taxes. I mean, well, you've been to council before,
Oh yeah. Oh yes. I'm not going to say
I,
anything else.
I,
Yes, I
I
have.
really recommend that everyone, instead of going to the movies or going to the ball game, stick it on your calendar, find out when your next council meeting is, and go to, say, I don't know, three, four, five of them in a row. Just sit there, because it is theater.
Yeah.
And it's free. This is big. You take the whole family. It costs you nothing, right? Parking is free. It's a great place to bring the family, and just sit down. And normally the chairs are fairly comfortable. Sit down and watch the theater, because that's exactly what it is theater. And you will learn an awful lot. You will be appalled by what you hear, and
Yes.
maybe, just maybe, then you might become involved in your life, because this is what's running your life. whether
Yeah,
you like to admit it or not. What goes on at your town hall runs your life,
that's right.
you
That's
know.
closest to you.
Yeah, and there's an old saying: either you affect politics, or politics will affect you. Take your pick. But
Yes,
there's no getting away from it, right?
that's right. And the older
And
you get, the more you understand that.
right, and so make it a family night, make it a neighborhood night.
Yes,
Lots of seating.
yes. You'll want to do it again once you've done it once or twice.
Oh
You'll
yeah,
want to
yeah,
know what
yeah,
they're
yeah,
saying.
yeah, yeah.
They count on people
Mommy,
not to.
why is the mayor and the council look like they're deer caught in the headlights? Why did they just stare straight ahead like that? Are they okay, mommy? It's good fun, folks. Uh, well, we got to get on them, and we got to make sure that they know that we're on them. Because as
Absolutely.
long as we don't involve ourselves, we've consented.
That's it exactly.
Okay, and silence is consent. And
Well,
and, and I keep telling people, you have no right, really, to blame a politician or a school teacher because they are doing what they're told to do. And if we don't stand up to it, then we've consented to it.
that's it exactly.
And that puts us as the one that's responsible. So I keep telling people, go look in the mirror, right? Figure out what's going on to your kid in the school. Uh,
Ignorance is not
you
bliss.
know, well, like when, I mean, that story still floors me. My friend, her son, 12-year-old son, got off the bus from school, and she said her mouth just dropped, and because he was done full, he looked like a girl, right? He had shoulder length blonde hair, a good looking kid, and when he got off the bus, she was staring at a girl more or less,
Oh
and
my.
said, "What the hell is that about?" And he was like nonchalant, like, "What, mom? That your face? Why do you look like a girl?" And he just like it was normal, right? Oh, today was gender reversal day.
Oh my gosh.
And she goes, "That's it. You're out. Done. Finished.
Yeah.
Kaputsies. Right? You're
Oh
not
my
going
gosh.
back." But see, the children, if you take a little child, the little child only knows what is told and taught, right? The
Wow.
children have been taken away from the family and being turned into these other things. This idea of you can use whatever washroom you want. If you feel
Oh
like
no.
a girl today, you can go in the girl's bathroom. If you feel like a boy today, you can go in the boy's bathroom, right?
I
Like
can't understand that people would think this is okay.
this
How
is
could
normal,
anyone think
folks.
it's okay?
But that Yuri Breznikov, his video series is brilliant because he goes through all of this stuff. How they use so-called leaders of the community and get them involved in this stuff and stuff that would never be accepted by the general population in the community
Yeah.
slowly becomes normal and
Wow.
normalize these things, right? So it's a well worth thing to listen to. Uh,
Yeah.
but this is what's going on, and you say, "Where's the parents?"
Yeah.
But then the parents came up through the same system.
Well, when the parents did try to go to Toronto and fight it, Kathleen Wynne said that these parents are homophobic. So they call you names if you
Well,
try to resist.
I put, I put, I, put- I put up on one of the anti-win sites the show last week with Tom DeWeese in it, talking about Agenda 21 and that.
Right.
And someone in there actually left a comment. That's a 2-hour show, and somebody left a comment in there. Well, this sounds like it's homophobic or something, right?
Oh my gosh.
And you go, wow, wow. Uh,
Oh
because I
God.
think we briefly talked about what was going on in the schools, eh?
Oh my gosh.
So lose all the rest of the content is like a Kathleen Wynne, right?
Yes.
So
Well,
this is what
that's
this.
their whole focus. Is so their whole life revolves around their sexuality. Who else is that tunnel vision in life? That
Well,
the only thing that matters.
what they've done, Shellie, is they've taken the idea of the Jewish Holocaust and they've moved over to the gay thing and used it as the same kind of propaganda,
Oh my
right?
gosh.
How dare you speak negatively, right?
Yeah.
That's a crime, right? Type of thing. So yeah, no, they use that. It's the same thing, say,
A
well,
thought.
you're against wind, so you must be pro coal. You're anti-environment. No, you
Yeah.
didn't hear a damn thing I just said to you, did you?
Not
Right?
at all.
And
No.
this is the same thing. Well, you're homophobic, says the premier. Where'd the hell that come from? We weren't even discussing that.
No, exactly.
But this
Automatically, if you don't agree with everything she says 100% of the
well,
time, she can
right.
blame it on
But there's no
homophobia.
you can interchange anti-Semitic with that because it's the
Yes,
same program.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you have to be able to talk about issues without talking about sexuality, I would think.
but they can't talk about the issues, not with someone that understands the issues, because they
No,
can't win the discussion.
that's exactly it.
Okay, so that they know they can't win the discussion. Like I tried to get Suzuki on my show. I thought I had him once, but he ran away on me. Same as Elizabeth May. She said
Wow.
she would come on the show, and she bailed at the last minute because they're going to
Wow.
wipe the floor with you in about 3 minutes flat.
Yes, exactly.
Because they cannot get into a discussion with somebody that understands this and come out smelling good.
That's right. That's right. The truth is
So,
not on their side.
so all they have is you're anti-environment, you're homophobic, you're this, you're that, and never go near the issues, right? And it's frustrating because, I mean, in your particular case, you have a child. And
Yes.
now, what isn't this all about the child, the human rights of the child out of the UN, and we have to do whatever we can for the child. The child is the most important thing. The child is the future. And
Well, we've tried
you
to,
come with your problem, and all of a sudden
yes.
your child doesn't exist.
No, your child will be just fine. These wind turbines are good for us. Do a
And if
little
it
bit of
turns out it
suffering for
irritates
greater
them,
good.
then we'll send them to a psychologist or put
Yes.
them full of
Find out what the real
medicinal.
issue is.
Yeah, we'll send
Yes.
them to the pharmacy, and
Yes.
we'll solve that problem that way.
He'll sleep at night with these pills.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've just destroyed another life.
Exactly.
So, everybody run to the polls and vote now.
Yeah.
Let's see how that works out for you.
Oh my.
Uh, so, anyways, we've been yakking almost an hour and a half here. I love these. I love these things that we do. I really, truly do, because we're discussing some extremely serious things here, but at the same time, we still managed to get a smile out of some of this stuff,
Yeah.
and that's important.
Yeah.
Once you get past the disappointments and the anger part of it, you get to see at things with a complete new set of eyes, and you understand things from a completely different perspective than you were brought up to think at. And our job really, and I thank you so much, Shellie, because our job really is I see it as a job of deprogramming all of the people that listen to the show, the people in the chat. That's really our job here. We need to get people to see with real eyes and hear things with real ears and be able to discern the fraud from the realities in that. Then we can start getting something done.
That's what I keep hoping. Everybody that we tell will tell other people, and the word will get out, because eventually we're going to have to riot in the streets or something, because they're just not listening to what we want. It doesn't matter what we want. They just want to push what they want. And there's more of us than there is of them.
That's the whole thing. That's the whole thing. And I can't say enough, don't get violent, because that's what they want. But the fact is that we outnumber them. Well, I don't even know what the numbers are, but there's very few of them, and all they have to hold us back is fear and their force of law, which is their corporate police force. But regardless, the police have houses, they have families, I've talked to lots of police that are ticked right off with what's going on.
Exactly.
But still they're stuck in this place of biting the hand that feeds them. And people got to get over that.
Yes.
Nothing's going to fall apart. I mean, we are standing on the same resources that the government is holding back from us now. So there's no shortage of future here for us. We just have to decide that we are going to deal with this stuff and put it the way it's supposed to be. But, like I said, 2,000 people roll in, the game changes immediately.
Yes,
It just
exactly.
changes. And
That's it,
and then
exactly.
we can say, you know what? We've been through all of this. You have been listening to us. Everything we have given you is true documentation, and that you refuse to listen to it. So therefore, we're not playing ball with you guys because you're not playing ball with us. So go away.
Exactly.
And
Yes, they've
the answer
ignored
to
all the
what you
facts.
want to, yeah, the answer to what you want to do here is a flat, straight out no. No, hit
Yes.
the road.
Yeah.
And they will because they're weak by they have weak spirits. These people.
Yes.
They will go somewhere else where it's easier.
That's it, exactly.
Okay, and they will leave you alone. But the trick is to get to the next place and do the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, and that's how you run them out, and no violence required whatsoever.
No. Oh, gosh, no.
Just
No, that would only stop you. That would only prevent you from going further.
That's
You
right.
have to play by certain rules, like it or not.
Well, it's a
And not
psychological
being
game,
violent is one
and
of the big rules.
it's a psychological and a spiritual fight we're in,
Yes, it is.
and we have to use the tools that are applicable for the fight. And,
Well, we have
and use
tools
wisely.
called brains that are far superior to what a lot of those people out there have, or they'd be using them.
Well, you've talked to a lot of these people in
Yes,
government, and once you've talked to them for a while, the word brain dead kind of comes up, doesn't it?
exactly.
Yeah. So you know that your intellect is far superior to their intellect,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and you know far more than they know. So knowledge and spirit and a strong spine will overcome this stuff every time. We just have to get
exactly.
to it. That's it.
Yeah,
Now, is it okay if I bring Kathy in for a bit?
wonderful. Like,
I think she's still here. She wants to meet you so badly.
I would love to meet her too.
Her son, she sent me some pictures the other night. What a beautiful bike. Her son just bought a Harley and then had it all done up to his liking. And
Right.
he was going to come up to Marmora today and take Mama for a ride. But she said, I really want to, be here for this show. So I'm going to try and bring her in here for the last while, if
Fantastic.
she's available. I just got to dig her out here. But I want to say this to all the men out there, please and thank you very much. I'm talking to a woman today. I am bringing another woman on the show today. I've spoken to women across this country who have contacted to me who are doing extraordinary work in all parts of this country. And guys, you got to pick it up a bit, huh? Right? Are we still little boys looking for our mamas to save us? Right? Okay? And if we are looking for our mamas to save us, i.e. these ladies, then we have a duty to stand beside them. Okay? Not beside them, with them, shoulder to shoulder with them. But we gotta pick up our game a little bit, guys. I don't want to read in a history book way down the road that a handful of women put things right. Get some guys involved here. Anyways, I'm going to bring Kathy in, who is another another independent thinking firecracker. Kathy, you there? Oh, we haven't hooked up with her yet. Hopefully she's not out on the bike.
It would be tempting, I got to tell you.
Well, yeah. I hope she's still around. Says she's online, but
I'm here.
there she is,
Hi,
Kathy.
Kathy.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, Shellie
Great.
meet Kathy. Kathy meet Shellie. I'm so
Hi, Shellie.
My pleasure to meet you.
So, Kathy, I tell you what I'm going to do because I can listen to this later. I'm going to let you two talk for a bit because I know, Kathy, you have some things that you want to say to Shellie. And you guys need to, you have some documents, I'm not sure if Shellie has or not, that need to be passed to her so you can pass them to people in her community and that.
Yeah.
Can we do that for a bit?
That'd be
Yeah,
great.
well, let's just talk generally. I've had to shut off my other player because it was spotty, but as far as getting heavy into it, but we can certainly do an overview because, I'm listening to what Shelley's saying, and it reminds me of what we went through here, and we've been kind of a unique example in Canada because we have been fighting every major party at both the provincial and federal level from day one, and as led by our local council and our county council and the unelected Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus. So it's given us a unique perspective because right on our municipality's website, they decided to become, a big proponent for the local green energy so-called project here that's not a renewable energy project. And so they decided they would, brag by putting up letters of support for the project, which is really letters of support for the council's decision to support it before the people here had heard of it. And so it's really been telltale because you can see if you actually read the letters of support up there, you'll see that it's from every party up there except the NDP, which was really an interesting thing because they came out during the all candidates debates during the provincial election and said they supported it, as did the Green candidates. So the letters of support that are on the municipality site are mainly from the Liberals and the Conservatives at both levels. And, of course, our local Conservative MPP became one of the real pushers. He made a fool of himself from the get-go when he was at Queen's Park, demanding that Shellie, the provincial energy minister, give Northland Power a FIT contract for this project. He apparently didn't seem to understand that Shellie couldn't because it was not a renewable energy project. It was never eligible for a FIT contract to start with.
Oh, my gosh.
So apparently I convinced him that I was right on that count. So the next year when he kept demanding that Shellie give them a contract for this project, at least he stopped demanding it be a FIT contract. At the same time, he was demanding they give the people, the proponents up near Bancroft, a contract for their biomass plant. So, they're in this up to their yin-yang. And you got the Conservation Authority, the big one out of Belleville, their letter of support. Again, they passed a resolution of support. Interestingly enough, it was at the end of June 2011. And it was kind of funny because they already had that support decision made before some of the people here had even heard of the project.
Wow.
It's, we've been just buried.
Sure.
Absolutely buried. Our own federal MP, who is so-called conservative, he didn't put up a letter of support for it, but the federal CPC MP from the neighboring riding did.
Oh, my gosh.
Our federal MP doesn't want to talk about it. When I talked to him privately, all he said to me was, I don't see any safety issues with it. And, so he didn't want to talk about it. He might think so if it was his house below this proposed lake in the sky made out of a waste rock pile above their house.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, again, when I saw all of this happening, I started doing a lot of research. And, I started off fighting a project, and then I realized that the problem wasn't really caused by the proponents themselves. They could never have done this.
No.
They had the backing of so many people before we knew about it, so it's really been a tough call, really been a tough call. But our municipality's webpage promoting this private developers project here, it's nothing but an industrial development, and its intention is to solve the problems of intermittency of wind on the grid. It's one of the smart grid projects. It's storage, they say.
But when I went to an engineering meeting down near Sarnia, and I was talking to the engineers down there, and I said, this whole thing's a fraud. And they said, we know it's a fraud, right? They didn't make any bones about it. But again, it was about, I said, you guys are getting close to pension time, and you don't mess with that. And they said, well, that's kind of the thing, But then it was a fraud. The other problem with the renewable energy, because it comes when it comes and goes when it goes, and you got to keep bouncing the lines around all the time, is one of the things the engineers told me down there, that this will never work because the neutrals on the lines, which are there for balancing the load, are way, way, way too small, right? So this is never going to work. So we went through this intermittent nonsense years and years and years ago. And, no, the wind blows when it's supposed to blow. Well, no, it doesn't. Look at the data. So they ignored that forever, and now they roll into Kathy's neighborhood with a new idea. Once we've put up so many windmills, and we're still putting them up, we have now acknowledged that the wind never blows when it's supposed to blow, and now this whole thing looks like a crock and a fraud. And so now what we need to do is we need some way to store this energy to use it later. Well, doesn't Marmora have an old mine not being used?
The problem is it's not a new idea. Pump storage has been around forever, and of course that's one of their sales pitches, but not a project like this one. And this is where they really pulled the wool over everybody's eyes, is that it's so totally unique, this particular proposal. It's so unique in so many ways that nobody seemed to catch it because nobody did the work. They all just jumped right on board with it. And so, I understand, I listen to people talk about the health effects and the solar people talk about the loss of agricultural land. The PC party's really big. They were really big on lack of consultation and, what they've done to the municipal councils, stripping them of their say. So of course I got involved in another planning fight because the exact same way that this project had been decided on and basically pushed through before we knew anything about it, the same summer, the same strategic planning process was used to shove through the process was started anyway for what they call a community improvement policy area, and that's done through the unelected county council. And what that policy area really represents is an urban growth boundary. So, there's been so many things come down that I had to start looking at the strategic planning process for successfully imposing almost any of the policies and practices that are advocated in Agenda 21. And sure enough, it's behind all of them. And every single party, is in on this. And Marmora is the absolute proof of it, which is probably why you've never seen any media stories specifically about the Marmora project. Now, I was on television.
Media.
Pardon?
This should be all over the media.
Well, it never has been. Now you know why. I was on TV, the local CBC affiliate station, ran a spot about my opposition in the summer of 2011, and I missed it, so I've never seen it. Apparently, according to other people here, it was really good, and it played on their 6 o'clock news and again on their late news. When I went looking for the video, the archive video, at that time they were putting their archives online, it was the only one that was gone. It wasn't there.
Oh my, did you try
to... I disappeared. I was removed from history. Wow. And then, let's see, in 2013, I believe it was, I don't have my notes in front of me, there was a piece that mentioned, our council having approved this before the people knew about it in the National Post. And there was a radio show because there was going to be a provincial election in 2014 on a local radio talk show, Mainstream. And they had a representative of the proponents on a guest on the radio show. And because there'd been a joint press release between our council and the proponents, the same day as the public information meeting where we first heard of this, when people got there, they first heard of it. They didn't know about it till they got there. But there was a press release issued the same day, and the proponents said they were excited to have the support of the people.
Oh, my gosh, and they didn't even know if they did.
No, exactly. And the press release had been created the day before we first heard of it. So when this guy was on the local radio show, they took calls, so I got a quick call in, but they really don't like me on the show, obviously, because I asked them how they knew they had the support of the people when we hadn't heard of it yet. So, and then they immediately hung up on my line, so I couldn't rebut him. But what he said was, oh, we saw these signs all over town supporting it and stuff. And I thought, well, that's fine and dandy. I'm thinking to myself, but those signs never went up till the last week of June. And this public information meeting where this press release went out was on the 10th. So those signs weren't even up yet. So anyway, what happened was, of course, that radio station puts up their archive podcast. Guess which one never went public? I've never been able to get a copy of it.
Oh, my gosh.
That's like Hamilton.
So then it gets better. They had a neighboring conservative MPP as a guest on their show. Another show, I don't know if it was the week after, but very close proximity. So I phoned in and told him the problem is we've never, ever had an open public meeting and debate on this project. Never. Wow. And he said, oh, well, you don't have to worry because they have to. There will be 2 statutory public meetings, blah, 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 right? And so I thought, oh, here we go again. That's part of the renewable energy approval process. This is not a renewable project.
Wow.
So we have never, ever... And so people here were left basically fearing for the future safety of their lives and homes from catastrophic flooding because the only similar project to this one in the States, it let go in 2005 and the destruction was massive. But they were lucky because there was not any permanent homes downhill from the reservoir.
Wow.
But in our case, we got about a quadrant of the town right below it.
Oh,
so,
my God.
Again, you're talking about, really, really, we're talking about afraid for lives.
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing, though, Kathy. It's the same thing.
They don't care.
Exactly, but it's
same
the same
Shellie.
thing
they
that Shellie and all the other people are facing with these wind turbines and that, okay? And when you explain, I've had the same problem. I've been on media before, and you go looking for something that doesn't exist. Everything else exists. But it's important for people to really understand that all of this stuff, be it the pump storage site or the wind farm that Shelley's facing, and some other people have been negatively affected by, this is all intertwined, and it is intertwined. Sure it is. With every government body and every political party. And the political parties come and go, but their bureaucracy stays.
Yep.
Okay, so the plan just keeps moving forward.
This is where it gets ugly, is the unelected entities that are actually, you've got elected people sitting on unelected groups.
Yeah.
And they are advised by committees or subcommittees or whatever, other unelected groups of bureaucrats and senior civil, senior public officials, whatever.
Agree with. Yeah.
No, and they make these intergovernmental agreements, so you're looking at a harmonization process here. So, I mean, when you're talking about wind, you could just as easily be talking about any other premier. I noticed that Jim Prentice is no longer among Canada's premiers group, but because he's no longer. But when you look at what's going on at the bigger picture, and you look where the funding, and you look at the other unelected groups like the local government associations and their networks and connections, and then follow the money. You follow the funding. You know, in the old days, we might have used the word bribery, but now they make it sound, they use incentives.
Yes, exactly.
You know,
community incentives.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's at many levels, but it is just so impossible to lay it on any particular party. Right now, you know, our Ontario Liberals, I mean, I agree with you.
They just have to be in power for the last 12 years,
But when you look at what's been done in our community, it was mainly pushed by the PC. So, you know, they were really pushing our MPP.
The important thing to understand is that if Wynne had been voted out and the PC or the NDP or Greens or whoever was in power right now, you would be experiencing the exact same thing. That's something that people have to. You would be. Look, we've got who's our lieutenant governor now? I mean, it's a UN agent.
The thing is you know, I put the question. I know the piece in the National Post that was put in early 2014. I believe it was March 3rd. That I co-authored with someone else, you know, basically asked a rhetorical question. Okay, so if the PCs got rid of wind and solar, what are they going to replace it with? And this is something that Patrick Brown hasn't answered either. You know, you can talk out against wind turbines or solar or pump storage or whatever you want. But okay, if you were promising you're going to get rid of that, what are you going to put in its place, and how are you going to fund it? Those are the things you don't talk about. And you know, you
really don't have to replace it with anything, because those intermittent energies have to be backed up 100% with gas or nuclear or oil or something else anyway.
But again, they're all for shutting down all the fossil fuel stuff. So, and natural gas is, you know, they refer to that as an intermediate fuel. It's only just a little bit better than oil and coal. You know, I mean, they're looking at reducing all fossil fuel, and there's a lot of the green movement that's against nuclear too. So again, without specifying exactly what your plan is, rather than just saying what you're going to get rid of, you don't know what you're buying.
Yeah.
You know, and it's exactly what's been done to Marmara.
I like that question, Kathy. I like that question. Well, I like the way you put that, because you have the other parties saying, well, we'd come and protect you from this and we'd get rid of that. And then and you say, well, that's
what
and then people jump on board and say, yeah, they're going to help us, but that was brilliant what you just did there. Okay, this is what you're going to do. What are you going to replace it with?
Well, you notice they were all excited about water power. Look at the big water power thing that came out during the election. You know, they were all the liberals and said, oh, look how wonderful. Water power is green and it's safe and it's been used forever and blah, blah, blah. Nobody wants to talk about the amount of subsidies for small water power and how useless a lot of the small water power that's really subsidized is when it's put on a grid. You know, you've got your spring freshet, all kinds of power, but, you know, again, when you're talking about really tiny water power projects, each one may not be sucking back the provincial consumers that much, but when you start adding enough of them, you know, so it seems, you know, we're in one heck of a mess.
Yeah.
Pardon?
These are novelty energy sources.
Well, exactly, and they're great off-grid, and they're great for intermittent use if you don't need them all the time. But, you know, if you if you had a huge property with a creek running through it, and you had, you know, possibly a few solar panels and a little wind turbine, and you had, you know, a little generator on your creek, you might be able to live off-grid.
And
you can't power.
Who cares?
This is the problem. Yeah. That's how they sell it. But the fact is, you cannot run. You can run a farm or a small acreage or something off renewables if you got firewood in that to back it up and so on and so forth. But you cannot run a grid.
No, exactly.
On renewable energy. It is an impossibility.
Well,
like
and
I ran your
especially
house
when
on a potato and a couple wires.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, especially when you subsidize it to this level. I mean, you know, they could try all they want, but we're going to go bankrupt first trying, I'm sure.
Exactly.
You know, and this
that's
is
part of it too.
yeah. So
Take
I mean,
some-
they could tell me tomorrow, okay, we're going to can this project. They could tell you tomorrow we're going to can this project. My first question is, well, what are you going to do instead? Because you know, it's a tough situation. It's almost
like
a matter of,
your poison.
well, do you want, yeah, like, you know, for us it was a matter of, okay, because our plan was for our daughter to live here for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
But again, you know, so protecting your personal safety came first. However, when you look at a slow incremental death by going totally bankrupt, is that really, you know, any solution?
No.
You know, so unless they have a better plan, but so far I haven't seen one, because the only plan I'm seeing in Ontario or anywhere else in Canada is the same one we're seeing worldwide. And that's nothing but the redistribution of wealth from the developed world to the developing world.
And that's what it's all about.
Not even that, Kathy. The developed world that's the storyline, but the developed world is not going to be allowed to be developed.
Well, of course not. But I'm
not. No, I know, but there's the thing. But I was just thinking here, maybe some people in the chat can chime in on this and give me an idea if it's worth the trouble or not. I was just listening to these two ladies talk, and I was thinking maybe next weekend or the weekend after we'll try and string it together here. I've never been into wrestling, but this looks interesting. I'm thinking we do a tag team match, Shellie and Kathy, and we'll try and bring in Kathleen and Shirley.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
See how they make it.
Shirley? I'm loving that.
I'll tell you who I feel sorry for when it comes to is Hudak, because he sure walked into a mess here, I'll tell you, because the proponent here, they had a clip put out in December 2013, I think it was. And anyway, the link is on our municipality's website. You really should take a look at this video, because the host was Ed Begley Jr., if you know who he is, big Hollywood star. Yeah. And so they had a clip in there with Shirley playing doctor, but they forgot to put a white lab coat on him, talking about, you know, the children and asthma and climate change. And then, of course, you know, he had been here and done it was in the local papers, big spread pushing the pump storage project. So, you know, so this happened. It was released apparently on American TV on the Discovery Channel, allegedly, in late December. And then poor Hudak got trotted in here by our MPs and, you know, went to tour the project, met with the stakeholders, you know, at the town hall, and then said to the press that, well, you know, it makes sense, you know, the project makes sense. And I thought, oh my goodness, he just backed up Shirley, you know.
Oh, gosh.
You know, but this is what happens when there's no opposition allowed, and the opposition is totally stripped of their voice. You know, there's never been any public debates. There's been no media except what was removed from history, you know, with me personally. And it's just, you know, whatever goes in the press is twisted. And when you've got the press, I mean, the press follows the politicians.
That's right.
And when you've got every party on board with the overall agenda, you know,
it's difficult to fight.
It really is ugly. Yeah.
That's why it's radio shows like this and social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you can do to get the world to understand what's going on. That's what we're doing.
Well, they need to.
Incredible. Mainstream media used to be the way to get the word out, but it's not anymore.
And the problem is, most people haven't done the research. They don't understand the agenda. How many people have actually read Canada's Federal Sustainable Development Act 2008 and its history?
That's right.
You know,
or any other act.
Well, exactly. You know, so much has happened here. The acceleration from what I've seen since 2008, and the exploitation, you know, has increased with, I think it was Paul Martin brought in 2005, the New Deal for cities or communities, whatever it was. You know, the infrastructure funding through the gas tax agreements is just incredible.
It's horrible.
And what an incentive.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
you know, I'm looking at the local councils almost as redundant now.
Yeah. They are redundant. But still, they're what's at hand for the local people. They can still, the local people can still get at the local council.
Yeah.
And one thing that really has to be exposed at the local councils is the fact that the CAO is the one that again, a non-elected official who is in charge of setting the agenda for the council and guides the councils, and the CAOs are specifically trained to implement Agenda 21, which includes wind and pump storage and everything else. So there's still you can still get at them. And that's where we need to focus, is right down in the local level, get in their face, make them extremely uncomfortable, and keep talking to the local people.
Yeah, and if you're in a county or regional government, though, Ron, then it becomes also important to get, because if that's the key, if that is where the planning authority lies, is in that unelected bureaucracy,
right,
then you're looking at getting a majority of local councils to make sure that the county is straightened out, because as long as the county is putting through the agenda through official planning.
But the county is still local. Okay.
Well,
the county's still local,
except that it's not elected.
Exactly, but
so
the county council itself, okay, is made up of the mayors who are elected. Okay, that's who makes up the county council.
Yeah, but the planning departments at the county and regional levels, you know, again, you're dealing with...
I realize that.
You could have, you know, 14 votes sitting around the table, and any local electorate can only control one vote at a time. So
I understand
you would need the majority.
I understand that, but the county is still at the local level. They're still completely attached to the local level. And
I don't want to butt in. I don't want to butt into Shellie's time, so you guys go and talk.
You're not. This is all fascinating. Trust me.
I can definitely tell you.
You know, Kathy, calling Shellie or Wynn or whoever is while it can be entertaining at times and totally frustrating at other times, they make no bones that they can't do anything about what's going on.
Well,
right.
When you look, they don't even have to say anything. All you have to do is check out, you know, what's going on with the unelected groups, where you've got the harmonization between all of the energy ministers and all of the environment ministers and every level of government, and you know what you're up against. Yeah. And, you know, like without these intergovernmental agreements, and then you know, there's a fellow in Australia who's done some fabulous writing, and there's a book online called The New Despotism, and that was published in 1929 in the UK. And when you look at the items that are used to basically bypass constitutional restrictions and over, you know, they can bypass the specific areas of jurisdiction, and
decisions, things like that, is just shocking.
Well, a big part of this was with the health promotion movement. And when you get back into the documentation of how, you know, Health 21, the World Health Organizations or World Health Assembly's Health for All movement, how that was structured and how that went, how that flew worldwide, and then you take it back to Canada and its introduction here, and the Ottawa Charter for health promotion, and then you can see really why Agenda 21 and the new public health agenda really developed in parallel, because they really do work much the same way. So, you know, this agenda is huge.
But all of this health talk from the WHO, which is all filtered down. And the WHO sets the agenda for our health agenda here. You have you, who have a disabled daughter who is threatened by this project, and you have Shellie where she is, and her son is threatened by that project, and yet health doesn't seem to have any bite at all. And I just want to get this out. I just want to do this. Has nothing to do with the show, but I find it totally funny and humorous, and I like it. Fred in the chat here, where did that go? Here it is. I'm going to put up a new T-shirt on my blog here, and this is Fred made it up, so he'll have to get a cut out of this. But what he said, it says, "Ron's Girl Gang, go ladies, go," or "You go ladies." I think that's a great T-shirt. I think it's a great T-shirt.
That's fantastic.
So now we did this show, and I've just enjoyed. I've enjoyed this a lot, and but I'm really hopeful that you, Kathy, and Shellie hook up together, because I think that you guys have a lot in common, and you think well. And I hope out of this that you two hook up and pass some documents back and forth and stay in contact with each other.
Well, you can share all of my information with Kathy.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful.
Are you on Skype by any chance?
No, not on Skype. I've never done that in my life.
Well, you should, because it's just the best program on the internet for moving files back and forth. A lot of files are too big to move through email and whatnot.
I'll have to check that out.
It's a really good thing. It's free, it's fast, and it works well.
Perfect.
It saves a lot of long distance calls too and whatnot. And you've got if you want to hook up a video camera to it, you can. So it's a really good program. But Kathy, I think you have Shelley's phone number, and you guys can exchange numbers or hook up to Skype or whatever. Because it's folks like you that need to. You have such a great deal of information, and you know what it is, and you guys get the program where so few people do. And I hope people listening to this show will do a little research and be sure to check out Shelley's site, which is mothersagainstwindturbines.com, right?
That's right.
Yeah, and Kathy's site, which has an awful lot of information on that project and a whole lot of other things, which is what?
That one is a really long one.
I know, that's why I'm letting you
search on my
say it.
name. They're easier just to search on my name, Kathy with a K in Hamilton, and then pumped storage in quotation marks.
So if they just Google Kathy Hamilton pumped storage, they'll run into your
because
stuff, right?
mine's just in a subdirectory. It's gone outdated for months now because since the municipal election, there's
and Kathy did the municipal election, and this is just exactly what me and we're going to run out of time here, but Shellie had mentioned this, that the one person that was speaking out ran in the election and got the least amount of votes, and we all know well about how that works, don't we, Kathy? Because you ran last municipal election, and I ran in the municipal election before that, and while I still have lots of people here saying I won the election, it wasn't going to happen. Wasn't going to be allowed to happen.
We have to educate people. That's the whole thing. Once we educate people, they won't be voting for the people that are promoting the scam.
Well,
Right.
the problem is not who to not vote for, it's what's left to vote for. And this is the problem, is that there really isn't, I haven't seen a credible alternative yet. Some of the fringe parties have some of it right, but they haven't come out swinging.
Yeah.
So, again, but until there is something, there really is no way I can see that any election is going to fix this. We may have to go bankrupt. I don't know. I hope not.
Yeah.
I hear music, my ladies. I want to thank you so much, Shellie and Kathy and the listeners and those in the chats, and God will be back here next time.
Selling lots lies and buying time, killing people next in line, lower classes, social slime, they don't matter, genocide, sick from water, sick from air, making money, they don't care, seize the shit, force of air, fuck